Dhamma Jodi You want to know what is Dhamma, or even if you have already known Dhamma, you want to know more about it so that it becomes clearer to you. And that's why Chara would like to talk about Dhamma tonight, or this evening. Dhamma is meaning of Dhamma. However, the Dhamma that we are referring to is as follows. Now we all have said Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami, and out of this Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, taking refuge in the Dhamma or teachings. Chara will talk about this Dhamma that has been given in this passage or expression, Dhammam Saranam Gacchami. He would like to describe this Dhamma which has been given in this Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, taking refuge in the Dhamma. What are the qualities of the Dhamma? And what can this Dhamma do to the Dhamma practitioner? So those are the things which we will touch upon this evening. Dhamma ye duyi di jingara Usam pe di de ya Usam me sara samwa de dhamma ba ne ya ga ni ya ni ya di da ba be ya ma kin ne ya ni be ya kin ne di ya ba ai ni usam de dhamma ba Why the duty of educating and changing solutions? Educate Juliani, thinking another center and needed post of here on the meaning of Dhamma is bearing, sustaining, uplifting from the lower stage to the higher stage. Hence the name Dhamma. It is also bearing from a dangerous area to a secure area, a safe area. For example, if one encounters or one is caught up in a dangerous situation, this Dhamma sends one to a safe area, a secure area where there is no danger. So this is the essence of the Dhamma. Dhamma bears the Dhamma bearer, sustains, protects, helps, uplifts the Dhamma bearer or the Dhamma practitioner or one who practices in accordance with the principles of the Dhamma. This is the main meaning or description of the Dhamma. People, or what kind of persons does the Dhamma bear? What kind of persons are born by the Dhamma? Dhamma bears or sustains the Dhamma bearer or the Dhamma practitioner. When you say Dhamma bearer or Dhamma practitioner, we don't mean to say the practice as one wishes. It must be the practice in accordance with the principles laid down in the Dhamma or in accordance with the instructions, guidance given by the Buddha. When the Buddha says such and such a thing is to be abstained. When the Buddha says that this should be the practice, in order to purify and cultivate physical, verbal and mental behaviors and so on. These correct methods must be followed. One must be able to follow the path laid down by the Buddha. Then only one can be said to be a Dhamma bearer or Dhamma practitioner. It is important that everyone can follow the right path, pure path, and purify and correct their culture. It is very important to have pure culture, real culture. Real culture, what is real culture? Real culture is to practice restraint, not so as not to defile oneself. At the same time, not to cause suffering, not to affect others. Only then one can be said to have cultivated the genuine, pure culture. This doesn't refer to Buddhists only. It also refers to other denominations. When we are living in the human world, we should behave as human beings and follow or practice the Buddhist practice the human culture. So one must possess such a culture. And in order to do that, first of all, one needs to cultivate one's physical, verbal and mental behaviors. And one has to be, in order to be pure and wise, first of all, one must be able to cultivate discriminating wisdom. If one commits unwholesome deeds, then one will not be a worthy human being. One will not rise above human status as a human being. One must see these unskillful things as unskillful. One must detest committing unskillful deeds. In other words, one should feel ashamed. One should feel afraid of doing unwholesome deeds. Seeing the unskillful nature of things, one must possess this moral fear and shame. To proceed one step further, driven by greed, one will not hesitate to commit unwholesome deeds. Driven by greed, driven by anger, one will go to the extent of killing, persecuting others. This will lower your own status. If you take others' properties without their permission, then also you will be lowering your status. If you misbehave sexually, then also you will be lowering yourself. And verbally, these are physical actions, misconduct by body. As regards verbal misconduct, if you tell lies, then you will be lowering yourself. You will not be becoming of a human being. If you indulge in malicious talk, harsh speech, frivolous talk, meaningless talk, you will also be lowering your status. These are verbal misconduct, and you will become verbally ignoble or inferior. As regards mental misbehaviors, there are these covetousness, coveting other people's properties, wishing to cause suffering to others, ill will, and not believing in a karma and karmic result, that good begets good or bad begets bad, and thinking or believing that this is the only life and there is no life hereafter. after this life everything will be cut off. So these are the wrong belief. So these things are mental misbehaviors, misconduct by mind. If you are indulging in these things, then you are said to be polluted, your mind is said to be polluted, you are said to be unskillful, and you are said to be ignoble, inferior. You will be lowering your status, you will become impure and ignoble and inferior. Then you will not be a general person. Your actions, your behaviors will not be commendable. So you should have this kind of knowledge in order to purify your physical, verbal and mental behaviors. You should detest committing unskillful deeds, like you detest excreta. As you are afraid of being burned by fire, you should have this shame and fear in doing unwholesome deeds. If you have shame and fear, then you will not be defiling yourself, you will not be causing harm to others. If you lack this moral shame and moral fear, you will not only be defiling yourself, not practicing the restraint of behavior to protect yourself, you will also be causing harm to others. So both ways you will be committing unskillful deeds. Thus, this fear, moral fear and moral shame and moral fear are the two basic things, two basic conduct in human beings. For those who wish to practice the Dharma, these things are very important, and you have to understand these basic things.
ဒီတရားနှစ်ပါးကိုကျမ်းဂန်များမှာလောကပါဠကဘာဆောင်တရားလို့ဆိုတော့ကဘာကြီးပြည့်ရအောင်သူကကာဝေဆောက်ရှောက်ပြီးတရားလို့ဆိုတာသူကာဝေရနေလို့ရှိရင်ကဘာကြီးဟာလုံချုံနေရပဲလုံချုံလို့ရှိရင်ကဘာကြီးသိချင်တာချုပ်ချယ်ရလို့လည်းသိချင်လို့ရတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုအခြေအနေဆိုင်အောင်ခံရနိုင်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ပုံရတော့တရားခံရနိုင်တရားလူရှင်ချမ်းမြေလို့ရတယ်။တရားခံရနိုင်လို့ရှိရင်တရားလူရှင်ချမ်းမြေလို့ရတယ်။အများကြီးခံရနိုင်လို့ရှိရင်အများကြီးလူရှင်ချမ်းမြေလို့ရတယ်။ဘဝလောကကြီးတော့ပြင်ရအောင်လို့ရှိတော့အဲ့ဒီတရားကိုသုက္ကဓမ္မဆိုတာရှင်တန်တရားကိုယ်မှမြင်ရအောင်မြင်ပါရအောင်ရိုင်းတိုင်းမှုတွေမဖြစ်ရအောင်ရုံရင်းချမ်းသာပြီးတော့မနစ်သက်ဖွယ်ရပါဘူးယုံကြည်ရည်မဖြစ်ရအောင်ဘုလို့ရှိတာပြီးမဖြစ်ရအောင်သူကကာဝေဆောက်ရှောက်တာဆောက်ရှောက်ရင်အဲ့ဒီလိုဆိုးရတဲ့တရားတွေကလုံချုံနေပါလုံချုံနေလို့ရှိရင်သူတို့ရဲ့အချုပ်ချယ်တွေကလွတ်ပြီးတော့ဒါအေးချမ်းမှုပေါ့အဲ့ဒါမိမိဘဝအဆက်ဆက်ပေါ့ကျွတ်ချမ်းသာမှုရတာပါဒီအဖြူခံတရားရှိထားတော့ရှစ်ကြောင့်လက်တာအဖြူခံထားလို့ရှိရင်အပူဓာတ်ပေါ့ပြဿနာမျိုးမျိုးပူပါရတဲ့ခါပေါ့စိတ်ချင်းရတဲ့ခါပြဿနာအဲ့ဒါဒီသူကကန်ထုတ်ရတယ်ဆိုတာစိတ်ပေါ်လာလည်းပဲနေဘူးတော့တဲ့ဗန္ဒီဘူးထဲမှာဖြူဝတ်သွားလို့ရှိရင်ဒီတက်တာလေဟိုလိုဒီကခံရတာအဲ့ဒီတရားမျိုးမရှိဘူးဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တော့အာရိကနတ္တပခေါ်ပါရဲ့အာရိကနတ္တပဆိုတာကဒီစိတ်တရားတွေကိုမရှင်းချင်းမယုံမုန်းချင်းအဲ့ဒါတွေတော့အောင်မြင်မြင်ရှက်ရှက်ဖြစ်နေတယ်မကြောက်ချင်းမလန့်ချင်းရဲချင်းချင်းဇွတ်တိုးချင်းဆိုတာပေါ့လေကမ္ဘာလောကကြီးမှာအဲ့ဒါတွေရှုံးနေပါလေအဟိကနတ္တပတရားကမ္ဘာဖြစ်တရားကြီးပါအဲ့ဒါတွေရှုံးမှုလာပြီးကမ္ဘာကြီးဖြစ်တာတယောက်မှလွှမ်းမိုးရင်တယောက်သူ့ကမ္ဘာကိုယ်ပိုင်ကမ္ဘာပြက်နေတာနှစ်ယောက်မှလွှမ်းမိုးရင်နှစ်ယောက်ကမ္ဘာပြက်နေတာ 10 မှာသွားလို့ရှိရင် 10 ရောက်ကဘာပြည့်နေတာတစုမှာသွားမှုလို့ရှိရင်အဲ့ဒီတစုကဘာပြည့်နေတာအများကြီးသွားမှုမယ်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်တကဘာလုံးပြည့်မှာကဘာဖြစ်တရားနှစ်ခုအလုံးရောက်ရကောင်းပါအခုကာလဟိုက်ဒရိုဂျင်ဘုံနဲ့စာဘုံရဆိုတာအလုံးရောက်ရကောင်းပါဒီဘုံအလုံးရောက်ရကောင်းပါဒီတရားတွေကိုယ်မှလက်ခံထားလို့ရှိရင်အမဲခံထားလို့ရှိရင်အပူကိုသူကစက်အမဲခံတရားကဏ္ဍဓမ္မလို့ခေါ်ရတယ်သူအပူရဲမှာအမဲဝတ်သွားလို့ရှိရင်တိတ်ဘာဖြစ်မလဲဆိုတော့အမဲရောင်ကသူအပူဆုပ်နေတာအဲ့ဒီအမဲကခြေကကဘာဖြစ်တရားမျိုးရှိနေတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကဘယ်တော့မှအေးချမ်းမှုမရဘူးအပူသာရမှာ
These two states of mind, namely hiri-ottappa, moral shame and moral fear, are known as the guardian or the protector of the world. In Pali we call it Lokapala. They protect the world. If the world possesses this moral or cultivates moral fear, moral shame and moral fear, then if the world is protected in this way, the world will be secure from unskillful things. If the world is secure, there will be freedom from the bondage of afflictive emotions. If the world is free, then the world will achieve peace, for the good world to live in. If one person cultivates these two states of mind, hiri and ottappa, one person will achieve peace and happiness. If two persons cultivate these two states of mind, these two persons will achieve peace and happiness. If many persons cultivate these two things, many people will achieve peace and happiness. And these two states of mind are known as Sukha Dhamma. That means the Dhamma which has white background. It's just like when you're wearing a white clothes, a white shirt and white clothing in the sun. This white will reflect the sun, the heat of the sun. Thus you will not feel very hot as much as if you are wearing things of other colors. So also, if you possess or cultivate these two states of mind, they will repel, they will overcome unwholesome, unskillful things, other afflictive emotions. Thus, these two states of mind are known as the guardians or protector of the world. On the other hand, if one has no fear or shame morally, no shame or fear morally, then the world will be destroyed. And these two being ahirika and ottappa, opposite of hiri and ottappa, lack of moral shame, lack of moral fear, are the two mental states which will destroy the world. And they will be known as the destroyer of the world. And this kind of means of destruction is much worse than the hydrogen bomb which people are afraid of. Thus, these two mental states of mind are most dangerous. If you wear black or dark clothing in the sun, what will happen? It will absorb heat. So also, when you cultivate ahirika and ottappa, lack of moral shame and lack of moral fear, you will be absorbing a lot of kilesa heats, afflictive emotions. Thus, these two states of mind are known as the destroyers of the world.
အဲ့ဒီလို Hiri Ottapa, choose Sina Dia Kunjesu. Aika Notapa, many day, Tayazu, Juba Chipo. Tari Dia. Peru look shaman, yes, Peru look payment, yes, Shawnee, Penny, Medi, Mutuation. Whoever he would have a camera in the morning. You young say, Jandam, Sesopuya, or Shimbo. You young family came with a ninja, they would knit up for you, and we are never children. The Joe of 59 years. Shango, Peru. Joji Shia, Lumitana, she was you. Nila Matibushi, Otanjania, Saint Amelia. Your vessel. When you say, dear you, Shamsha Pere Nili, Pia. She would rather show them the young what that only did already. Belu Shawya Mes, Belu Payams, and need the rest of the Union came in a ninja, they would sit there for your common Colosita activity, that is correct. There they go, a few days, that in Chitiame, I come on, Chiposia, Niyami of the Baba. Some parent need it, some quarter need. These are the need one. And never Jama cover. Jama cover. But the day of the Java. The old Judah shown their need. Some share need, some water need. These are she. But the Unia name is a sea to see your value, said Nita. Any Kini Mandamaga Tidu, Matiduga Nero, Samara, the Kuni, Tishika, and Solomon. Nita Pada. Eraha Kini of Mala, Tidu Chitira Holo, Shiva, Kini Mandamala of the Shiva.
So the question is how to overcome these unskillful states of mind, Hiri and Ottapa, moral shame and moral fear. We wish to be gentle, we wish to be cultured, we wish to be skillful, we wish to do skillful things. If we abstain from unskillful things and observe skillful things, then we are bound to be superior. We are bound to be good people. If, on the other hand, if we do not know these methods, then we will be inferior and ignoble. So how to, the Buddha taught the beings, first of all, to know that these things are, such and such things are to be abstained. So first of all, you come to know what are the unskillful things. Later the Buddha taught the beings how to overcome these things, how to abstain and how to observe these things. Buddha gave the method. Thus one becomes a knower from an unknower. From an ignorant person, one comes to know these things. So in this way, the Dhamma, the knowledge, the Dhamma in terms of the knowledge of the correct method, is said to have borne or sustained or helped or uplifted the Dhamma bearer, in this case the learner, the one who learns the Dhamma, from not knowing to knowing. Previously one did not know what are the unskillful things and how to abstain them. Now one comes to know what the unskillful things are and the method of overcoming them. Thus, in this way, the Dhamma, in terms of the correct, the knowledge of the correct method, is said to have borne or sustained or uplifted the Dhamma bearer. So this is just basic. That is knowing. This is just knowing the correct method, and this is the basic of the Dhamma.
ဘုရားကျင်းဤမှာလေ့လာတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဘုရားကျင်းဤမှာတရားကမြင့်တည်ပေးလိုက်တယ်ဆိုတာလေးနှစ်ပါးစဉ်းစားလို့ရှိတယ်။မှန်ကတော့ကျင်းဤမတည်သေးဘူး။ဒုစရိုက်တရားတွေကိုရှောင်ရှားတဲ့နည်းမတည်ဘူး။ဒုစရိုက်တရားတွေကိုပွားတဲ့နည်းမတည်ဘူး။လေ့လာလိုက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့လေ့လာတဲ့ဆိုတာကကြားနာလေ့လာတာရှိတယ်ဆွေးနွေးလေ့လာတာရှိတယ်စာအုပ်ဖတ်ပြီးတော့လေ့လာတာရှိတယ်အဲ့လိုနည်းနဲ့လေ့လာတဲ့အခါကျတော့ဒီစိတ်တရားတွေတော့သူ့ရတယ်ဒီတရားတွေဒီလိုရှောင်ရှားပေးရမှာလားကောင်းတဲ့ကုသိုလ်စိတ်ဓာတ်ပြုမှုသူ့စိတ်တရားတွေဒီလိုဆောင်ပွားရမှာလားဆိုတာကိုသိပါတယ်ပြီးတော့ကျင့်သုံးတဲ့နည်းကျင့်သုံးတဲ့နည်းတိတူကိုဆောင်ရတယ်ဆိုတာကျင့်သုံးတဲ့နည်းမတိမှုကိုပယ်လိုက်တဲ့ဘောပါအဲ့ပယ်လိုက်တာကိုပဲဒီမှာဆောင်မှဒီဖြစ်ပြီးဒီသိနေပြောတာသူဟာချင်းယောဂဖြစ်တဲ့အခါမှာဒီစားတဲ့နည်းကိုဒီနောက်ရှင်းရှင်းဖတ်လိုက်သိသွားတယ်။ဒီကောမဖတ်မြင်ရတော့ဒီဝတိလေးမှုလေးတာအစဉ်သားနေနေတယ်။ဖတ်လိုက်တဲ့အခါကျတော့သိသွားတယ်။ဟောဒီစိတ်ကိုလူလွဲရတယ်ဆို။မတည့်တာဒီလူရှောင်းရတယ်ဆိုဆိုတာလားလေပေါ့လေ။ဒါအသိဉာဏ်တက်သွားတယ်။အဲ့ဒီပိုင်းတော့ဆိုရင်လည်းအခြေခံခုနကျင့်သုံးရေးအတွက်အခြေခံရသွားပါလိမ့်မယ်။
The Dhamma of the knowledge of the method is said to have uplifted, borne, sustained, helped, borne the Dhamma bearer, that is the one who has studied or learned the correct method. If one does not know, one will not know the method. How to abstain. How to abstain, what are to be abstained, and how to observe, what are to be observed. So how to understand these things? First of all, you can learn in many ways, such as reading books, listening to the talks, and so on. So in this way, one can understand by discussion and so on. So then, after reading, studying, discussing, listening, one will come to understand that these spiritual deeds, which are Pali for unwholesome deeds or immoral deeds, are not commendable. They are to be abstained. So we come to know that. Thus, this ignorance, not knowing the method, is said to be obliterated. Thus, this is removed, because this in itself is what is meant by the Dhamma is born or sustained or uplifted the Dhamma bearer. That means the one who has learned the Dhamma. Let us say, if a person is sick, he or she has to take medicine, and if one does not know the method, one does not know the instructions, one will not be able to take how to take the medicine, because one will not know how to take medicine. Previously, he or she did not know how to take medicine, but after reading the instructions or being guided or instructed by the relevant physician, one comes to know the method of taking the medicine. Thus one can abstain from unwholesome food, unwholesome exercises and so on. And in this way, one is said to be uplifted. So one comes to know this in itself is what is meant by being uplifted, being born, sustained. This is good enough, basically.
ဘုရားတို့ဘုရားသာသနာကိုသိတာ
Translation of the Buddha Sadhana. We try to learn the teachings by listening to the talks, reading, discussion and so on. What are the unwholesome deeds, misconduct, unskillful deeds, and how to abstain them. So in this way, we come to know by listening, discussing and reading and so on. Thus one comes to know the method of abstaining, what should be abstained, or observing, what should be observed. However, just knowing is not enough. If one does not put them down into practice, one will still be inferior and ignoble. For let us take the case of ethical precepts, sila. If one does not undertake these ethical precepts, sila, one will still be wild and violent. One will still be misbehaving physically and verbally. Thus one will still be lower, one will still be inferior and ignoble. If the Buddha said that in order not to defile oneself, in order to protect oneself, one must at least sustain the 5 ethical precepts. If we do that, then we will be behaving physically and verbally. Prior to this behavior, prior to the cultivation of physical and verbal behaviors, one is said to be lowered. One's life is said to be lowered. When one abstains from unwholesome things, unskillful deeds, and sustains the precepts, ethical precepts, then one is said to have purified and cultivated physical and verbal behaviors. One becomes general, and this is upliftment. This is what is meant by saying uplifted. Who is responsible? Which is responsible for this upliftment? This is Sila Dhamma. The teaching of ethical precepts is said to have uplifted the practitioner, Dhamma practitioner, the one who sustains the precepts. Thus, basically, this becomes the practice of the Dhamma. In this way, the Sila Dhamma is said to have borne, protected, sustained the Dhamma bearer or practitioner. This is the first step in the practice of the Dhamma.
ဒီနေရာဌာနမှာသီလဓမ္မကလမ်းကြောင်းအတိုင်းလက်တွေ့ကျင့်သုံးတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကိုရှင်းတမ်းမြင်အောင်မြင့်တင်ပေးလိုက်တယ်ဆိုတဲ့သဘောကတော့ရှားမဟုတ်ဘူး။ဒါကလည်းဒီကံမျိုးပြုလို့တဲ့အခါမှာအလုံးဒီလိုပါလည်းထိခိုက်ကြည့်တတ်တဲ့လူကြည့်လို့ဆိုတော့ဒါကအလုံးကျန်တဲ့လူကြီးဖြစ်ပါတယ်။မဆောင်ကြည့်ရင်ဖြစ်နိုင်တဲ့အလုံးကျန်တဲ့စော်ကားတဲ့ဒီလိုစောင့်ကြည့်လိုက်တော့အဲ့ဒါကိုပယ်လိုက်တာ။အဲ့လိုပယ်ခြင်းကိုပဲဒီလဓမ္မကတရားရှိပြီးကိုနေရာကနေပြီးတော့မြင်မှတော့ပြည့်တည်ပြီးစောင့်ရတယ်ပေါ့။ကျေကျေလိုက်ကျေ
At this point, the fact that Sila Dhamma uplifts the Dhamma practitioner or the Dhamma bearer means that when one commits physical and verbal behaviors, or one behaves physical and physically and verbally, one is bound to cause pain or affects others. Thus, one is said to be basically committing misdeeds. And this is a form of, one becomes violent physically, one becomes wild physically, and thus one is said to be committing these afflictive emotions, kilesas. Now if one observes or sustains the precepts, then one is said to have overcome these afflictive emotions, kilesas, so by body and speech. Thus, Sila Dhamma is said to have sustained the Dhamma, Sila Dhamma bearer. Sila Dhamma is said to have saved the Dhamma practitioner.
ဒါလို့ဆိုရင်အခြေခံတော်ကောင်းသွားပါပြီဒီသီလဓမ္မမရှိရင်ကာလအောက်တန်းကြပြီးတော့လူနဲ့မတူသေးပါဘူးလူတော့လူပဲလူနဲ့မတူသေးပါဘူးသီလဓမ္မဆောက်ရှောက်လိုက်တဲ့အတွက်အခြေခံလူနဲ့တူတူဖြစ်တော့ပါဘူးဒါလို့ပဲသီလဓမ္မ
If one is able to sustain the ethical precepts, that is, observe sila, this is fundamentally good as a human being. Prior to the observation of Sila Dhamma, the practice of Sila Dhamma, one is not a worthy human being. One cannot be said as a human being, although one would be called a human being, a nominal human being, but not a real human being. Physically, one is not a human being if one lacks Sila Dhamma. But even if to practice the cultivation of physical and verbal behaviors, these can only eradicate coarse or gross forms of afflictive emotions, kilesas. Thus, one still needs to cultivate one's mind, because if one cannot restrain one's mind, one will still be committing misconduct in the mind, mentally, because you are only eradicating or overcoming gross forms of kilesas with the practice of sila, which is a basic practice. But mentally, you may be thinking of doing harm to others, stealing others' properties, committing sexual misconduct, speaking maliciously, meaninglessly, and so on. Then you will still be childish, your mind will still be childish and immature. You will still be covetous, and you will still be covetous, you will still wish to commit malicious talk, you will still wish to speak harshly, meaninglessly, frivolously, and so on. Thus, you will still become, your mental attitude will still be detestable. Thus, it becomes necessary for one to study the method of cultivating one's mind. So in this way, one has got to cultivate one's mind. We can cultivate our mind with many practices to control the mind, development of the mind, such as loving kindness meditation, practicing or cultivating compassionate feeling, karuna, or reflecting on the qualities of the three gems, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, or to the method of doing self-research, that is the practice of a way of mindfulness, satipatthana. So in this way, one can cultivate one's mind. By having sati, the vigilant mindfulness can be made a mind's guard. So this sati will be able to control one's mind. This sati, mindfulness, will protect one's mind. In this way, if one is protected, there will be security. If there is security, one will be free from afflictive emotions. If one is free from afflictive emotions, one is bound to achieve peace and happiness. Thus, if one does not know the method of controlling or cultivating one's mind, one has got to learn the method and becomes a knower of the method of controlling one's mind, and then one can put it into practice. In this way, Dhamma is said to have uplifted the Dhamma bearer in terms of the practice of mindfulness. This is the third step in the practice of the Dhamma. In this way, we have the third step of upliftment by the Dhamma to the Dhamma bearer. When we practice the restraint of the mind by cultivating the mind, we will be able to overcome the obsessive defilements, afflictive emotions which can arise in the mind, obsessive kinds of defilements. However, there will still remain latent or dormant forms of afflictive emotions, kilesas, and they still need to be eradicated to the point of no return. If only we have cultivated the mind, this will not be complete as yet in the practice of the Dhamma. One needs to eradicate these kilesas to the point of no return. Thus, another method needs to be practiced, namely Sila Penya Dhamma, that is the practice of wisdom, cultivating wisdom. In the practice of the cultivation of wisdom, one has got to see things, one has got to practice mindfulness to see things as they are, to see mind and body as mind and body, that this is the mind, this is the body, and they are causal mode, cause and condition, cause and effect relationship of mind and body, and to go one step further, to understand or to comprehend the universal characteristics of phenomena, namely impermanent nature of things, unsatisfactory nature of phenomena, and their selflessness or impersonality. In this way, knowledge will arise, by which one will be able to eradicate the afflictive emotions, kilesas, on a part-time basis. When, at the maturity of the practice, one becomes fulfilled with the insight knowledge, one will see the path and fruition knowledge of the noble ones, at least the first path or first knowledge, namely Sotapaddi Mega, the path of the stream winner. So although at this stage all kilesas or afflictive emotions are not eradicated, at least the apaya-related kilesas, that is, all the afflictive emotions which can lead you to the states of loss, will be eradicated to the point of no return. There will be no harmful, coarse or gross forms of afflictive emotions such as greed, hatred and delusion. Thus one will never be misshaped. One's life will never be misshaped. One's life will become beautiful. This is the security, life's security. Life becomes clean. So we have to practice to come to this stage with the practice of the three trainings, namely the training of morality, sila, the training of samadhi, concentration, the training of panya, that is cultivating wisdom or knowledge. Learning how to practice these trainings and putting them to practice is what is meant by the Dhamma at the next step. In this way, with the cultivation of knowledge, all the three forms of afflictive emotions, kilesas, namely the coarse or gross forms, the medium forms, and the refined forms of afflictive emotions will be eradicated. With the knowledge, one will become very general, one's life become beautiful, and one will become satisfied with one's life. In this way, Dhamma bears the Dhamma bearer or practitioner.
ခုပြောခဲ့တဲ့ချက်ကြီးပေါ်မှာကြည့်ဆောင်ရင်းနဲ့စောင့်ပါရင်းနှစ်ပိုင်းတိုင်းကိုပြောပါတယ်။ကြည့်ဆောင်ရင်းဆိုတာကပိုင်းရင်းရှိတယ်။ဒီရှင်းပြီးဆောင်ရင်းရတယ်။ဒီလက်တွေ့ကျင့်သုံးသုံးရရှိတယ်။လေးရရှိပြီးတာအဆုံးချတယ်။ဒီပိုင်းရင်းအဲ့ဒီပိုင်းလေးပဲပြည့်စုံအောင်
Now what has been said so far has two parts, namely the practice of the conduct and the bearing or sustaining